They say it's always darkest before the dawn. And in the world of motorsports, those words ring especially true. As is tradition, Daytona greets us as we emerge from our winter hibernation. But this year, we awaken 30 years in the past. This time we celebrate a bygone era as drivers take to the unrefined beasts that are the Audi Quattro and Nissan GTP. A new season is about to dawn. The darkness about to fade. The Major Series and Late Apex Apparel proudly bring you the 2018 Classic Daytona 2.4, an endurance race from the ages, for the ages. Coming to you live, iRacing Live, on February 4th, 2018.
Red Bull GRCs are now available on iRacing. I personally put my blood, sweat, and tears into this thing, developing the cars, the tracks, the dirt, making sure it is authentic as possible, and I really think you guys are going to love it. The best part is that this 600 horsepower Volkswagen Beetle is free to all members. So get signed up now and come race me online.
Hello everybody and welcome to V8's Online tonight. We're back again with CPR Rallycross and should be a really interesting and entertaining night of racing. Once again, always turns on for Rallycross despite numbers maybe having dropped off a little bit at this point. We've got 19 here for tonight, so it's probably going to be a pretty short and sharp little round of racing here tonight, but just makes the action even more frantic. It's going to be all crammed into such a small space, but we're here at Iowa here tonight. Produced some awesome racing last time we were here, had that fantastic battle in the final, which went down to the wire, so I'm sure it's going to turn on once again here tonight here on V8's Online. So Thomas Hinder's leading you through. We've got Jay Candy once again doing the magic behind the scenes with the cameras and directing, and alongside me tonight is Mr. Cam Dance. Hello, Cameron.
Hello, yes indeed. It's going to be a very interesting night of Rallycross. Obviously, numbers a little bit down from last year, I guess you could say now, because it's 2018, but yeah, it's still going to be a very interesting night of racing with it being so close and competitive. Obviously, got a couple of guys in here that are more well known, such as Luke Harvey and Reese Gardner and those sort of guys, but yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how it goes tonight.
Yeah, and obviously Luke Harvey's a name that we know, once again, like a few of the guys you see pop up in other series, obviously more known probably in V8 supercar circles than sort of the likes of Rallycross, but obviously tonight deciding to have a go and have some fun in that car, and looking not too bad at the moment. In practice he's sitting P4 out of the 6 drivers in this race. I believe there was supposed to be 7, so I'm not sure if someone's not jumping in, or if that was a different session. But either way, should be a nice close field. Looks like the battle at the front is going to be quite close between Ryan Gorton and Cam J. Taylor. Both those guys, again, SSR, who have really been showing some great form on dirt, both on Rallycross and the Oval. They've recruited a lot of very, very fast drives in those disciplines, Cam, and it's been showing so far in the results this year.
Yeah, definitely. Obviously, with that recent announcement of all those drivers coming on board, it seems to have helped, and definitely what those guys are going to be one to watch, I reckon, this year.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, they've already had the win with at Phoenix with Bob King, and they had the podium lockout, I think, at Phoenix and the last round back at Daytona Long. So been some really, really impressive performances from SSR. They've really been targeting the dirt side of things quite heavily at the start of this year, and going on further into the year, as well as, of course, doing their usual thing with the road circuit side of things. So they're really tackling 2018 quite heavily here this year for SSR. Ryan Gorton was also the fastest qualifier, it's been told. So and Bo Albert was second, one of our V8 Online brethren, as well as obviously being an ERT driver himself. Yeah, Gorton was the fastest qualifier, so expect to see him very much battling with that lead. But Cam Taylor, we know, is also just as quick on the dirt, very consistently quick is the thing I've noticed with him. Certainly in race trim, he really pulls it out in these races, so we'll be expecting him to be up there, and it looks like there'll be a good battle sort of for third, fourth as well, and towards the back. So a couple of good battle packs in this little field. Not the biggest field, but doesn't mean there won't be some awesome racing, as we've seen plenty of times in this series over the 4 rounds prior. Round 5 here tonight, of course, again at Iowa Speedway, which has that bit of uniqueness about it, with the jump being where it is, and obviously the Joker cutting out a good sort of third of the lap in itself, which is always a bit weird to try and follow with where cars are, because they cut out so much. So we now have a starting grid on the screen as the cars grid up. So real quick, we'll go through it. Ryan Gorton, as we mentioned, fastest qualifier will be pole. Cam J. Taylor in second. Reese Gardner in third. Luke Harvey in fourth. Michael Crooks in fifth. And Matt Hartley rounds out your field for this first heat in P6. So we'll see how we go. I think by the looks of it, Gorton has a pretty solid or pretty hefty pace in practice there, and I assume in qualifying too. But let's see how this all goes. The lights are now on. We're getting ready to go. First heat of the night here at Iowa Speedway, here for CPR Rallycross. Who's going to take the initial victory? We'll soon find out, as it is green flag and we're away from the 6 cars on this grid. Even split, 3 Fords and 3 Volkswagens. And it looks like a nice clean start. Luke Harvey and Reese Gardner jostling for that third spot. But it looks like everyone's going to settle into single file for now. 10 laps, 2 jokers as per normal. As all, Reese Gardner's gone wide at double left hand. That's going to hand third spot to Luke Harvey. It looks like Reese is going to take his first joker. I think I saw Gorton also take it as well. And so that's 2 of the field. In fact, 3 of them. Oh, it's Matt Hartley's taken it, but it looks like he's hit the wall. No, he hasn't actually, just spun doing the joker. Did well to keep that out of the wall. It has cost him a lot of time, and surely going to put him at the back effectively after this first lap. But half the field taking their first joker, half not, or yet to take any. And of course, as I say, it's 10 laps again, 2 jokers as we've seen per usual in these heat races in this series. And looking like it should be a nice tussle all throughout the field here, Ken.
Yeah, definitely. Obviously, a couple of guys wanted to get that first joker out of the way and also get a bit of clean air in front of them so that they don't have to deal with too much traffic, which is not a bad point at this point. But yeah, it's going to be very interesting to see who comes out where after that set a lot of jokers happen.
Yeah, and Ryan, as we see usually is the sort of strategy when you're leading the race, is taking both his jokers straight off the bat. Generally the play, and is I think generally agreed upon with most drivers, if you're at the front, it's generally the best idea to get those jokers done early so you can get some clean air and just get the laps pumped in. Whereas if you're in the middle or towards the back of the field, it can be a bit smarter to just kind of hold on to a joker and maybe use it later on towards the end to make a pass or two at the last lap or two. And that seems to be the case here, as Gorton has taken his too early. Oh, Matt Hartley spun again at the hairpin onto the speedway. Oh, as you can see there, he just chucked it in with the handbrake, trying to get it turned. He's gone a little bit too early and T-boned that barrier, and that's cost him a lot of time once again. So Matt having a really difficult first run in this qualifying. What that does mean is now Reese Gardner is right behind him. And this is not really effectively called position because Reese hasn't done his second joker. He goes wide again to a double left-hander. Reese really struggling with that. He's going to take his joker. Probably not a surprise there. He's wanting to avoid getting held up by Hartley on this lap. But that now puts Reese in some clear air. And P2 overall for now. I'm not too far behind Gorton, has to be said. He hasn't actually dropped as far back as I thought he would, but Ryan does have a good lead. But obviously the ones to watch will be the likes of Cam J. Taylor, and Harvey just took his Joker. There you go, and he's come out, and that's his first Joker, I believe, as well. There's Matt Hartley quite nicely goes wide, and that's Luke Harvey through, so that works out well for Harves, and puts him to P3 for now. But he should be pretty close to Gorton, as he was battling with Cam Taylor before he took the Joker. Looking not too bad, I have to say. I didn't know, obviously Luke Harvey, as I mentioned, not one that we've really seen on the Rallycross scene too much, or certainly I haven't seen him in the series prior, but looking pretty pacey so far. But we know Luke, in most cars he jumps into, is quite a pacey and handy driver, so I'm not too surprised that he's not doing too badly here. As a reason why TTR picked him up from after he'd left ERT, and really showing his stuff here on this form of racing, which you wouldn't really probably pick him to do as well in, being less practice, but he's really showing his stuff at the moment. I believe, as I said, he's got one more Joker to go, so remember he'll probably at least jump up to second, I would say, but I think Ryan for now might have him still, as Michael Crooks has gone off as well. Looks like he's crashed it over the jump. Oh yes, landed very awkwardly, and actually did well to avoid major collision there. But Cam Taylor has now taken his first Joker, has saved them this far in. That promotes him up the field into P3. Importantly though, ahead of Luke Harvey, he now drops to P4. So it looks like at the moment it's probably going to be an SSR 1-2 in this first heat, assuming things stay clean. But as we know, Cam, being Rallycross, anything can happen.
Yeah, absolutely. It's all up in the air until you cross the line in this sort of racing, as it can be very close and hectic at some times. But yeah, at this point it's looking like Synergy Sim Racing is definitely going to be having a win to finish in this heat at the state.
For sure. Although, actually, I say that. Oh, no, yeah, that's right. No, Reese had taken both his Jokers. Apologies. Thought he'd taken one, but he's taken both. So Reese is, though, probably in a position, as I said, to be, probably third. I think Luke should jump in when he takes his second Joker, but we'll soon see. I would say he will, but still looking on the song for a solid first result for Reese. Looks like Michael Crooks has also parked it in the garage after that incident off the jump a couple of laps ago, and that leaves 5 cars left in this field. Matt Hartley bringing up the rear at the moment after a bit of a difficult one so far. Had a few incidents throughout this heat, but still hanging in there, not too far off. It looks like here comes Cam Taylor making the move on Reese Gardner. And Reese not going to probably fight it too hard. Oh, he goes into the wall trying to avoid him there. A little bit of a moment for Reese. Hopefully he doesn't have any steering damage. That's always the big worry when you hit the wall like that. So hopefully for his sake it's just a bit of fender damage and nothing more. Oh, as he goes very deep again into that double left-hander. Really struggling to get the car turned in there, it would seem. Well, they may have some steering damage. And actually, yeah, that car does look to be tracking a little bit off-centre. So that hit may well cost him, as Luke Harvey is on the Joker. I think he will actually jump Cam Taylor too, by the looks of it.
Yeah, by the looks of it.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, I was just thinking, I'm sure Cam does have another one to go, and that is the fact there. So he does have one more Cam, which should jump him back ahead of Luke. So the ebb and flow of this circuit, in effect, the last lap already upon us. Gorton had a pretty easy run, took the nice clean start, did his 2 Jokers straight away, got the clean air, and he's just been going along, pumping the laps all the time since then. Here comes Cam to take his Joker, should jump Harvey, and indeed he does, and we'll confirm that SSR 1-2 in this first heat. So here comes Ryan Gorton to take the first heat win for SSR, get that first bit of momentum heading their way like they've been doing all series so far in the last few rounds. Great win there for Ryan. Cam Taylor follows in formation in P2. A good drive from Luke Harvey, not that far off the pace really, considering, as I said, that I'm sure he doesn't have quite as much running in these cars as a lot of his competitors. So great stuff there from Harvey. Reese Gardner, despite that hit there at the end, that's really quite damaged that car quite heavily by the looks of it. He is still going to limp it back for a P4, so still a solid result for him there. And then Matt Hartley is going to bring home the finishes in P5, with Michael Crooks unfortunately retiring there in about midway through the race after having a pretty hefty moment over the jump. But probably a little bit spread out there, but I mean, again, with this way this track is with the Joker, we kind of expect that, don't we, Cam? Because that Joker cuts out such a massive portion of the lap, you can get the field getting quite segregated when, they all take their Jokers at different times of the race.
Yeah, definitely. It does make it a little bit confusing as to who's where in relation to where they actually sit on track, but Yeah, it definitely does come into play as to whether you use it earlier on or whether you use it later on. So it's definitely something that does come into play with strategy as to when you're out on track up against multiple cars.
Yeah, for sure. And, we'll see, as we saw last time when the cars were here, and as I'm sure we'll see tonight, there'll be a lot of strategy and tactics for when to use it. As I mentioned, the general rule at this point with the Rallycross, if you're in the lead or in the top sort of parts of the field, you generally like to get the jokers done early so you can use that clean air. And you more kind of hold on to them if you're a bit further back and can maybe use them towards the end of the race, especially if guys ahead of you are battling. You can just use the clean air to then jump them later on, especially here at Iowa, of course, with how much that joker does cut out of the circuit. But that's heat 1 of tonight here at Iowa, round 5 of CPR Rallycross. That's Cup Price Racing Kart and Sim Parts Rallycross. Good first race, as we were saying. Now only 6 cars, so it's not a full field, but obviously we will whittle down to a full field for the final later on, which, knowing the usual quality of field we get, despite the numbers, should be a really, really cracking race. So we'll take a short break now, and once we come back, it'll be the second race of the night here for this event here on Reds Online.
They say it's always darkest before the dawn. And in the world of motorsports, those words ring especially true. As is tradition, Daytona greets us as we emerge from our winter hibernation. But this year, we awaken 30 years in the past. This time we celebrate a bygone era as drivers take to the unrefined beasts that are the Audi Quattro and Nissan GTP. A new season is about to dawn. The darkness about to fade. The Major Series and Late Apex Apparel proudly bring you the 2018 Classic Daytona 2.4, an endurance race from the ages, for the ages. Coming to you live, iRacing Live, on February 4th, 2018.
iRacing, you wanted the best, you got them for a breast. Often imitated, never duplicated. The greatest show on dirt, the World of Outlaws.
Welcome back to V8's Online for CPR Rallycross, that is CPR Kart and Sim Parts Rallycross. Thank you to the Discord channel that has that name so I can continue to look at it and remember at the last minute. Awesome stuff. But here for the second round of heats here at Iowa Speedway. Had a good first race, obviously got a little bit segregated there, only 6 drives in that race, but the way it all works with this circuit, with that Joker cutting out a good on average about 10 seconds or thereabouts for most drivers, it does get quite spread out pretty quickly when everyone's doing their Jokers at different times, although as Jay was just telling us out of the break there, Cam Taylor apparently did his Joker cut out a good about 11 seconds or so off his lap, so he really must have optimised that Joker to perfection on that lap, and he did actually get quite close to Gordon. He nearly did get him, but not quite. Though of course those two have just been sort of going in formation at the time. But we're here for the second heat round, and then we already after this will be to the LCQ, the final one, and then we'll be at the final already. So another nice short sharp night of racing here, just like last round. Unfortunately with the less numbers, that's sort of how the cookie crumbles, so to speak, but it does mean it's a really fast paced action and we can sort of whip through the night real quick, which I think suits Rallycross very well because it all is done pretty quickly when you think about it. So it's good to have the format kind of match that as well. But here for this one we have Luca Jackerman, who we know he has talent here in these cars. Lachlan Smith, another very handy dirt driver. Reese Gardner once again in this one. Daniel Ackland, other of SSR's drivers who again we know him for more road going stuff, but he doesn't do too bad in this Rallycross machines. Ryan Gorton here again, and Robert Northway is your final one in this second round of heats. So should be a good heat here, Cam, but who are you watching to do well in this one?
Yeah, it's definitely going to be a very, very good heat, all very strong drivers, and you could be very obvious and say Luca Jackman's going to take this one out, but could be Lachlan Smith, it could be Daniel Ackland, it could be Reese Gardner, it could be Ryan Gorton. Yeah, you could put your money on anyone just about in this one.
Yeah, for sure. It's the beauty of, as we mentioned before, about having these smaller fields. Generally, the quality of field is very strong, even if there's less drivers, because usually the ones who turn up are the drivers who are very keen and very well practiced in Rallycross. But your grid is as follows for this heat. Ryan Gorton will start out of the first position with Luke Jackman alongside Daniel Ackland is there in third, Robert Northway in fourth, Lachlan Smith in fifth, and then Reese Gardner will be starting out of sixth place in that Ford Fiesta. There we go, I said it right this time. Stay focused once. Jay is celebrating in the background. I finally got it right on the first try. Took 5 rounds to do it. We got there eventually. But should be a really, really cracking heat here. And once again, good to see a nice even split with the cars too. We got even split of Beetles and Fords more or less in this heat too. We saw last week there was a lot of Beetles, and it seems to be a bit of a transition to the Beetle of late as people are obviously figuring out the setups. But we're ready to go here for the second race of the night. Round 2 of technically 4 of racing for the night. And we are ready to go. The drives are too. Green flag flies and we're away for this race, and it looks like Gorton has had a great start once again. He's going to clear the field before turn 1. Look at this, his teammate putting up a really good fight with Jackerman there. Daniel Ackland trying to harass him. Big crash in the background. Lachlan Smith, massive crash into the barrier. And that's going to probably see him out, really. Looks like the engine blew on the impact. That's how big it was. CPR replay is obviously in effect for that one. And I'll look on that one now. But just looking back, it looks like, unfortunately, it was Northway getting a bit of an awkward landing and sort of spearing a bit to the right on him. And unfortunately, Lachlan Smith had nowhere to go and just drilled the wall. And Reece Gardner's actually very lucky he got away with that one, as he was right behind Lachlan when that all kicked off. We're back live now. And it looks like, once again, the SSR guys are going to take their jokers nice and early. Gorton, again, takes them in the first 2 laps, as does his teammate, Daniel Ackland. Luca Jackerman hasn't actually taken any just yet. He's going to continue to do so. Robert Northway will not either, and neither will Reece Gardner. A good little battle between those two, actually, for P4 in those Fiestas. And we'll see who can come out on top on that one. And 4th is the transfer into the main. So it'll be the top 4 of each of the 2 heats running here in this round will be secured a spot into the final. The rest will go into the last LCQ, which will then decide our final 2 positions in the final. We'll have our 10 drivers for that. So should be a very exciting one, but good battles here at the moment. The SSR guys are sort of out there leading now, but obviously Jackerman, as we said, yet to do a single joker, and we know how quick he is in these cars.
Yeah, definitely. He's a very good peddler in these cars, and it'll be interesting to see when he takes his joker. Obviously, he's got no one in front of him at the moment, as I believe that was taking his joker just then. But yeah, Jackman's very, very quick, so don't see a need for him to take his joker just yet, with obviously no traffic in front of him. But we never know, he might take it this lap, he might take it the next, or he might take it on the last 2 laps, as he really throws it sideways into there, just yanks the handbrake. So, yeah, it's going to be very interesting to see when he plays his 2 jokers.
Yeah, and unfortunately that really affected his lap too. He did a 37.8 the lap before. That was a 38.7 that lap, so he did probably yank it a bit too much, unfortunately. Kind of wrecked his momentum into the hairpin, and that's really hurt his lap time. He hasn't actually really got away from Robert Northway. Credit to Robert, he's doing some really solid pace, almost matching even the SSR guys up front. So Robert Northway, a bit of a dark horse in this one, just holding off the back of Luca Jackman, and might have a shot at challenging for a top 3 even, if Luca continues to just have little errors like that. But we know Luca, we know his talents, and he should get back on the ball pretty quickly. But Reece Gardner obviously just took his joker a couple of laps ago. I think he wanted to get clear of Northway, and that has worked a wonder for him at the moment in clear air. And hopefully for his sake he can get some good pace going as well. He goes a bit deep though into the right-hander there. That'll hurt his run as he's battling for position with Northway, who has just taken his joker and unfortunately really quite handsomely beaten out Reece Gardner, which is a bit of a shame for Reece. Just going to probably put him at the back of the field that's still running for now. So he's going to have to do a bit of work now, Reece Gardner, to try and secure himself a spot in that final here.
Yeah, definitely. Obviously, he's got one more joker to do, but he's going to have to work for it if he wants to get ahead of Northway, as Northway's also got one more joker to use.
Yeah, Northway, as I said, his pace has actually been really solid so far. It was pretty much more or less matching Jackerman there when he was behind him. It was only maybe a couple of tenths slower per lap, as it looks like. I think that might have been Jackerman. Nope, Jackerman still has to take a joker, so Jackerman looks like he's going to probably wait till the last couple of laps to get his jokers done. At this point, he should come out 3rd, but the SSR guys have absolutely bolted, haven't they? They really are in a class of their own pace fight at the moment.
Yeah, definitely. They've done something to those cars, and they've worked them out pretty well, because that's some unbelievable pace that they've got at the moment. So we'll see what happens when Jackman takes his jokers, but that's a fair gap that they've pulled out.
Yeah, as speak of taking, there goes Jackman taking his first joker now, and that will of course see him in front of Gardner and Northway, who have also of course only done the 1 joker. So each of those 3 at the back do have 1 more to go. That will close them in on the top 2, but the SSR guys have really pulled out a pretty handy gap, especially Gorton, who just keeps pumping in. I mean, look at his consistency, 37.9 and 8 after 37.9 and 8. I was just thinking, well, if not Gaunton, it'll definitely be very close between Jackerman and Ackland at the very least. So we'll soon see, as Ackland's pace has dropped off a bit as well. He's just not quite been able to match his teammate on raw pace. He's hanging around about, thereabouts, just hanging off the back of his teammate, but he can't quite do the sort of consistent 37s that Gordon seems to be able to just pump out lap after lap, as Ackland really attacking that jump once again. And I think, yeah, Jay, you might be right there. He might actually be a bit close to Gorton than we sort of realised initially, because to be fair to Jackerman, his pace is just as solid as Gaunton's at the moment. As they've got 2 laps to go. I'm assuming, yep, Jackerman will wait till the very last lap to use his Joker, and we'll see where he comes out. That'll be really key for his race, as we'll see if anyone else at the back of Gardner or Northway take theirs. Gardner hasn't, but Northway has. Yep, I was about to say, just saw him take that there. He's actually, as we look at that, he's not actually that far behind the SSR cars, so really solid pace has to be said from Rob Northway, Ken.
Yeah, definitely. Northway's shown some decent pace tonight, so it's going to be interesting to see where he comes out when Jackman takes a second Joker.
Yeah, as we are on the final lap now, so Jackerman will have to obviously take his Joker this time around. We'll see him whip it out wide there, take the straight line the Joker as much as he can to get the run onto that bank section. And there you go, it is close, it's on. I think he might have jumped him, he has, there you go. So look at Jackerman, perfectly executed with his Jokers, will jump Andy Gordon, stops in the middle of the track there to make sure Andy doesn't have a run at him. And Luca Jackerman, a great run from him, will snatch the win from the SSR cars, who took the lead early. They took their Jokers early, but Jackerman just kept pumping away, and despite having that little error into the final corner where he almost came to a standstill, he took that much of a slide, is going to come away with the win only just over Andy Gordon by half a second in the end. So really, sorry, Ryan Gordon, getting the names wrong there, but so yeah, Ryan, just from Ryan, half a second in the end. So that's a awesome win from Luca. I really didn't think he was going to get that close to him, but he did get the jump. So Jackerman, I mean, as we've said, we know how strong he is in these cars. There's a reason why ERT picked him up for their Rallycross efforts, and Jackerman has really been showing that in this CPR series. He does some drifting initial D style in celebration there, but the results are as follows. Luke Jackerman, as I say, does take the win by half a second over Ryan Gaunton, who might be probably a little bit disappointed really, because they got the Jokers done early. They were in clean air the whole race, but just weren't quite able to match Luca's pace to take that win. So that'll probably be something they'll be noting for the final later on. Daniel Ackland is in P3, secures himself a final slot. And then Ryan Northway, who, as I mentioned, was kind of the dark horse there. His pace was certainly right up there. He only finished just under 6 seconds off the lead, which is no small feat when you're considering the winner was driver of Luca Jackerman's quality. So good drive from Robert, and secures his spot in the final. Then going to the last chance qualifier for our round 3 of racing will be Reese Gardner and Lachlan Smith, who we saw at that massive incident on the first lap. So that was your second round heat here tonight for CPR Kart and Sim Parts Rallycross. We will once again go to a short break, and when we come back, we'll have the last chance qualifier before we have our final 10 secured and locked in. Ooh. Wow, and Jay's mentioning some of the names going through. Certain Bo Albert's one as well, so we'll have 2 of our V8's online brethren in that race. Bob King, another one, who will be in there too. So we'll have some Lachlan Smith, yep. Scott Larnack as well, yeah, and Brookfield as well. So some really quality drivers are going to be in the LCQ there, Cam. So it should be an absolute crack of a race. Yeah,
definitely. It's going to be no hot bars held there. It's going to be all on for trying to make that transfer spot, that's for sure.
Oh, yeah, for sure. So it'll only be, again, the top 2 that'll make it through in that LCQ, and I'm assuming there will be a qualifying for again as well, as per usual. There's a qualifying for that last chance qualifier, and of course there'll be a qualifying for the final as well. So we'll have a short break now, and when we come back, we'll have the last chance qualifier for the night to find out who those last 2 spots in the final will be. We'll be back with you here on V8's Online in just a moment.
Red Bull GRC is now available on iRacing. I personally put my blood, sweat, and tears into this thing, developing the cars, the tracks, the dirt, making sure it is authentic as possible, and I really think you guys are going to love it. The best part is that this 600 horsepower Volkswagen Beetle is free to all members. So get signed up now and come race me online.
iRacing, you wanted the best, you got them for abreast. Often imitated, never duplicated. The greatest show on dirt, the world of outlaws.
They say it's always darkest before the dawn. And in the world of motorsports, those words ring especially true. As is tradition, Daytona greets us as we emerge from our winter hibernation. But this year, we awaken 30 years in the past. This time we celebrate a bygone era as drivers take to the unrefined beasts that are the Audi Quattro and Nissan GTP. A new season is about to dawn. The darkness about to fade. The Major Series and Late Apex Apparel proudly bring you the 2018 Classic Daytona 2.4, an endurance race from the ages, for the ages. Coming to you live, iRacing Live, on February 4th, 2018.
Welcome back to V8's Online for CPR Kart in the SimPass Rallycross. Didn't even have to look at the Discord name to remember that, so I'm making progress on that. Jay gave me a very nice well done. Thank you, Jay. It really means a lot. In the third round of, well, I would say races, but we're at the last chance qualifier. I always hate saying that, but can't think of any other way to say it. The last LCQ. There we go. Sounds better. The final LCQ. There we go. Jay saved me again. Here tonight, and then we have the final already. So once again, like last round, we had about 20 drivers thereabouts last time. We're able to whip through the races nice and quickly, which, as I mentioned, really, I think, enhances the intensity of the races and suits Rallycross quite well, because obviously you do get through the races quite quickly. They're only short little spurts, so it's good to have the sort of broadcast and the event itself mirror that as well. So good to see, and we look forward to seeing what's ahead. As we mentioned, got a really stacked final LCQ here tonight. Can confirm the ones or the drivers in the final confirmed already. The 8 drivers confirmed in. That is, as we saw in the heat we were watching there in the last race, Luke Jackerman, Ryan Gorton, Daniel Ackland and Robert Northway, your first 4. And then in the second heat, it was Cam Taylor, Colin Attard, Luke Harvey, and Simon Black getting into the final. Great to see Simon in the final after having that damper issue / it snapping being fixed now. So he's back on pace again. And now we'll be down to the last chance qualifier and sorting out who are going to be the final 2 entries in that. And as we were mentioning, a really stacked final with the likes of Albert in there, Bob King, Scott Larnack, Robert Brookfield as well, and Reece Gardner as well. Lachlan Smith, who we know can do very well, of course, got a bit caught out in that second heat where he sort of was just in a wrong place at the wrong time and got kind of drilled into the fence. But we know he's very pacey, so expect to see him out. I'll expect to see him doing a very good job here if he can get a nice clean start. So practice is already about to be wrapped up. As with the usual format here with the last LCQ and the final, we do have a qualifying session in this event, or in this race, so all the drivers will get a chance to put in another lap and put themselves as far up the grid as they can manage. It is another 10-lap race, 2 jokers once again, as per normal. And should be a really cracking race here, Cam, as we were mentioning, a really stacked field and a lot of drivers vying for just 2 spots to get through to the final.
Yeah, definitely. It's going to be all on try and be inside that top 2. And it's going to be no holding back. Everybody's going to want to try, whether it be using a bit of your elbows out or whether you try and keep it clean. It's going to be a hell of a race.
Yeah, for sure. So we'll watch with interest how this goes. I've noticed Lachlan Smith's actually not got into the session, so may actually only have 5 in this race, which will mean 3 won't be making it, 2 will get in. Hopefully Lachlan can get in before qualifying finishes, but we'll keep an eye on that for you as qualifying is now underway. And we wait for the drivers to begin their qualifying runs. Looks like a couple of them taking their time in doing so. It is a 5-minute session, though, to do 3 laps. There is a lot of good chunk of time to get these 3 laps done. So looks like the first out will be Bo Albert and Richard Brookfield pretty much neck and neck for who's going to be first out between those 2. Looks like Brookfield's going to be the first one as he jumps across to start his first lap. As we've said, always been pretty much thereabouts for almost every round. Is maybe not usually in there with a shout of winning the final, but is usually there or thereabouts for actually getting to the final and just getting solid points every round there, Ken.
Yeah, definitely. It's all about consistency at the end of the day, and you can't win a championship without that, so it's always important to have that consistency, and he's definitely proved that throughout the series so far.
Yeah, for sure, and we'll no doubt see him doing that again here in this race, but as you mentioned, really is a stacked field, so he's got a lot going against him in a way to try and make that work, as he will be the first to start a lap. I think he must have cut there. Oh no, they're all just starting one now, sorry, my bad. But so Bo Albert actually might end up being one of the first to get a lap done by the looks of it. And I think Reece Gardner just behind him, so the Vets Online duo leading the charge in this field. And yeah, as I say, with Richard, he's usually thereabouts, but he has stacked against him, I think, in this LCQ with the likes of Bob King, Larnack, and Bo Albert and Reece Gardner even in this field. It's a very, very talented field. Even if it is only 5 cars, it's still going to be very hard fought for those top 2 positions. As Bo Albert comes across 37.7 his first lap. Very nice first lap to start off his session. Reece Gardner with 38.1 gets picked by Brookfield. 37.9 for him with first lap for Richard as well. And we wait for Scott and Bob to finish their first laps to get themselves on the timesheet as well. There you go, Bob's first lap didn't count, so obviously got a cut somewhere and or a contact somewhere, and so that's going to mean he's only got 2 laps to do it, and that looked awfully close to the tyre barrier once again, so hopefully for his sake he didn't clip that on the way through, so we'll just count the lap once again, and he'll be looking to put himself up there again. We know how quick he is on these dirt formatted series. As he comes across the line, does this one count? It does, but only a 38.7 for Bob. And he's got it very loose over the double left hand. He goes a bit too wide, clips the grass, nearly loops it, and looks like he's pulled out already. And I think that is his 3 laps too. So looking like that he'll be he'll probably say he's going to be starting at the back at this point, which and Alba's on a lap, although he's just ahead of his teammate. No, he's not. There we go. Oh no, he's crashing on that lap. So what's going on there? Yep, looks like he was done. So plows into a wall, and that is your field then by looks of it. Looks like everyone's done a lap, although Brookfield's going out again. I think he may have one more. No, he's already done. There we go. Okay, there we go. So both him and Bob are done. They're just doing some extra running while they've got time left in the session. But either way, the field will be as follows. It'll be Bry Albert on the front or in the prime position with his teammate Scott Larnack within 0.017 of a second behind. So the two RT cars very much in sync there. Richard Brockfield ends up in third with the 37.943. Good pace from him, with Reece Gardner in fourth with 38.109. And then Bob King, unusually off the pace here in that qualifying session with a 38.774, and have it all to do to try and get into the top two to get to the final at the end of this race. So already some mixing going on in the field, Cam, before we even got into the race. So this is really shaping up to be a real cracker, really crazy bonkers. There we go, race here for this last LCQ.
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be very interesting to see who's going to win this. And again, you can't discount anyone. And even though it's only the top two that will go through, it's going to be very, very close as to who's actually going to go through. And turn one's going to be very interesting out of the start as well, with it being so tight.
Yeah, for sure. Especially obviously with the top two only getting through and the rest ending their night. There'll be a lot of desperation to get to that prime position as soon as they can, and we'll watch with interest how that goes off the line. Before we go as well to qualifying, worth a little notes, as I'm sure you guys have seen. I think one of the videos played before we came back was mentioning it, but remember to keep an eye out for the majors. They're going to have their first round of that series coming up very soon. For the 2.4 hours, the classic 2.4 hours of Daytona, using the Nissan ZDP and the Audi Quattro, four-wheel drive Audi Quattro, really bonkers car to drive. And what's on is now on screen, as you can see. You can see what's coming up for us really tomorrow at the moment, which will be the OEC return of the Oceanic Endurance Championship. That round is the second last round, I believe, the Nürburgring. 6 hours of the Nürburgring, the WEC version of that track, so with the proper chicane, not the F1 one that I personally don't quite like, or don't really like too much, so I prefer the WEC version, so with the proper one. That should be a really interesting race to watch as well, because obviously return of endurance racing on V8's Online. Really keep an eye out for that. Then we've got the obviously official V8 Supercars back again on Monday as well at Spa. Should be a cracking race. OSC begins round 1 at Daytona. Me and Cam are going to have a fun time trying to wrestle the Audi around there and stay somewhere near the others, because the Audi is not strong at all at Daytona, but we'll make our fun anyway. And we're back again with more CPR Rallycross next week. The majors, there it is, Sunday the 4th. Lock that date in for that race, and that will be an absolute cracker to start off that series. But we're about to go here for the final LCQ of the night. Before we get to the final, top two in this race will go through the final, and we'll have our final 10. It is green flag here for this one, third round of racing here tonight, and it looks like a pretty even start all round. Everyone more or less holding position. Bobert's got a lovely run through the first corner. He's going to lead away from Larnack. Brockfield, getting all sorts of loose over the jump. He has, and that's him gone. In the background, I think he will try and keep going. Credit to Richard on that. It looks like it just was an awkward landing. If anything, he's just jumped it at a bit of an awkward way. He saw the car twist in the air, and once it does that, it is really hard to control, Cam.
Yeah, definitely. Not quite the most ideal start for Richard there, but I'm sure he'll be able to come back to the field and eventually catch back up, hopefully.
Yeah, well, we saw his pace very solid in qualifying, back live now after that CPR replay, and we saw his pace very solid in qualifying. We've seen generally in this series he has very solid pace, so expect to see him fighting through. But Albert is now in the lead, taking both his jokers early on, as we see most leaders do in Rallycross, but the way that does benefit you. Reece Gardner has taken one, doesn't take the second, and Scott Larnack's now going to take his first joker and should jump ahead of Reece Gardner, so that puts him effective second for now. And that's going to mean Reece Gardner is just outside the drop zone for now, and bearing in mind Bob King is still yet to take his joker as well. And yeah, I was about to say, I did just see him nearly go wide and nearly hit that wall there, the joker wall on the outside, so very lucky to get away with that, Bob, but still going without damage. Looking like he's struggling a bit here at the moment, Cam. Maybe not quite as comfortable with the car around this track.
Yeah, he seems to be struggling a little bit, and as you said, it could be due to the lack of comfort in the car, or maybe setup or something, but he seems to be just a wee bit off the pace in this one compared to what he was earlier on in the night.
Yeah, for sure. We'll see if he can get some pace going. Because at the moment, it might be a double DRT going through to the final, along with Luca Jackman, which would be really, in a way, be good to see another one of the teams taking the fight to the SSR domination in recent rounds, as Richard Brockfield's taken his Joker, come out right alongside Bob King. He's trying to hold it around the outside, but of course, the inside line there was probably always going to be Bob King's position there, so he holds that one. But again, Bob King yet to take any Jokers. That was Richard's first after having that instant on the first lap. But looks like it's a pretty interesting little race here we've got on our hands. Obviously, Bo Albert taking that first Joker, or taking both his Jokers straight off the start, which, as I said, most leaders tend to, so they can get clear of any shenanigans and just pump in lap after lap. But I'll tell you what, Scott Larnack doing some really nice pace. 37.7 last time by, 38.1 that time by. Reese Gardner, 37.8. Reese Gardner really picking up the pace here. And I think he, well, as they all know, it's only the top two that gets through. And, you know, he's right on the bubble of making it. So if he can keep this pace up, he might have a fighting chance of making that top two, Cam.
Yeah, definitely. And Reese has got the pace, so it's going to be very interesting to see where he pops out and whether he's actually going to be able to do it.
Yeah, indeed. As Bob King, we're hearing, has just taken his Joker as well. And I think he has popped out, between Larnack and Reese, and that's effective third for Bob at the moment. So he's already made it most of the way up, and now he's got his sights set on Scott Larnack for that final spot. This is where it's all at. This is the sort of decider. This will be for effective, probably P2 at this point. I'd say Bo should have it, but I say that Scott Larnack's pace has been electric so far. 37.5 there, that last lap, quicker than his qualifying time. Fastest lap of the race and 2/10 faster than they managed in qualifying. Obviously, the track does get better as it goes on, which is why the pace tends to improve as these races go on. But Scott has got the eyes on, doesn't he, Cam? And Bob will as well behind him. So this could be a really juicy battle between the top three in the closing laps.
Yeah, it's definitely looking like it's going to go that way between Bob King and Scott Larnack at this point. So definitely going to have to keep an eye on this one, because it's definitely going to be one heck of a spicy battle.
Yeah, for sure. And Reese Garner just holding station, and to credit to Reese, he's still hanging in there on pace. He's there or thereabouts. But again, as we know the talent of Bob King and Scott Larnack and Bo Albert even in Rallycross and in these machines. So it's not an easy feat for Reese to try and keep with these guys and challenge for position. But I mean, the moment they start tussling and getting into each other's cars and they have a major incident, Reese will be there to pounce. And I mean, being that battle for the top two and being as close as they're looking like they might be, it could all kick off, and Reese is in the prime spot, so it's a gain from that if it all does. But the pace is still pretty heavily in the favour of Scott Larnack and Bob King at the moment. Bob King does take the Joker. I was just going to say where he's going to pop out. It'll be pretty much with Bo Albert. I think he's just behind. Yeah, just behind. So barely, but just about maybe 2 seconds, 1.5 seconds behind. Reese Gardner also followed through, so he's in there as well. And the rate that gap is, I think Larnack's going to come out pretty much bang on with his teammate. That could be really interesting to watch, Cam, because they want to obviously, they can battle away, but they have another car right behind them that could challenge for that top two position.
Yeah, definitely. So they're going to have to be very, very careful not to battle too hard and lose too much time to the cars behind.
Yeah, as Larnack continues on again, I think Larnack, though, I think he might jump them all at the moment. His pace has just been absolutely electric. All race has been doing consistent mid-to-high 37s for the past 4 laps. Only 1:38, which was lap 4. Everything else has been 37s since the start. So I think Scott, at the rate he's going, he probably will end up jumping all of these cars ahead. So he might be well on for a win at the moment. Bo Albert is doing just enough for now to keep Bob King behind, but we're on the final lap of this race, and all eyes turn to Scott Larnack. Obviously, we'll have to take that second Joker now. We can see where he is going to pop out. There he goes to the right, and let's see where he goes. I think he will take the lead. He does just, yeah, it's only just, but he does take the lead. And that's going to mean that it will be an 1-2 for take through. Looks like Bob King made a mistake as well, which helps Bo Albert, but it's going to be Scott Larnack taking the win. Awesome pace all race long, really stamping his authority for the final, but Scott Larnack takes the win. Bo Albert will follow him through in P2, and it'll be a double ERT qualification into the final. And they join their teammate Luca Jackman in making it through to that, and Scott Larnack very happy with that one too, which is fair enough. Bob King, for the first time in a few rounds, I think the first time since we've started doing this series and he's been racing in it, will not be in the final. It's a really big casualty to not make it through, and a big one for SSR. Been one of their key players in this series throughout his time so far in it. The results are on screen for now, so we'll go through real quick they are again. Scott Larnack took the win for ERT, with Bo Albert taking second, 1 second behind his teammate. That secures them in the final. Bob King ends up P3, 3.2 seconds behind, and probably quite disappointed with that. Just didn't have the pace really in the end. He just couldn't catch up to the ERT guys, and when he did catch them, he could more or less hold station, but he couldn't pass them in those final stages. So he's out for the night now. Reece Gardner, unfortunately, also has to bow out in P4. Only 6.6 seconds off the lead, though. So again, not too far off the likes of those guys, which is very impressive stuff from Reece. And Richard Brockfield, of course, having that incident earlier on, kind of put paid to any chance of him getting a result there. But he comes home to get a finish in the end anyway in P5. So that was your final last chance qualifier for the night. And we now have our final 10 sorted for the final coming up in just a moment's time. I'll once again confirm that list for you. It's going to be Luca Jackerman, Ryan Gorton, Daniel Ackland, Robert Northway, Cam J. Taylor, Cohen Attard, Luke Harvey, Simon Black, Scott Larnack, and Bo Albert are going to be your final or your finalist for this round of the CPR Kart and Sim Pass Rallycross here at Iowa Speedway, round 5. Been a very, very insane night of racing so far, Cam. It's obviously gone by pretty quickly as the numbers and the way this all goes tends to be now, but still very enjoyable nonetheless. Yeah,
absolutely. It's been a very good night of racing so far, and this final is going to be very, very interesting to see who actually comes out on top and how much closer it actually is going to be.
Yeah, I suspect it'll be a very, very hard-fought one. A bit of a rivalry in there too, and it's a very even one. And there's 3 ERT cars and also 3 SSR cars in the final. So there will be some very intense fighting, I think, between those 2 teams for the top spot. And really, any of the 3 from each team has a shot of the win, really, with their pace. So it's going to be a real cracker, really crazy bonkers, I think, final here to bring us home for this round of CPR Rallycross. Hope you guys have enjoyed the show so far. We'll be back in just a moment with the final of round 5 of CPR Kart and Sim Pass Rallycross.
iRacing, you wanted the best, you got them for abreast. Often imitated, never duplicated. The greatest show on dirt, the world of outlaws.
Red Bull GRC is now available on iRacing. I personally put my blood, sweat, and tears into this thing, developing the cars, the tracks, the dirt, making sure it is authentic as possible, and I really think you guys are going to love it. The best part is that this 600 horsepower Volkswagen Beetle is free to all members. So get signed up now and come race me online.
iRacing.com is a sim racing game that combines a true-to-life racing experience with an online community of virtual racers from all over the globe. iRacing offers a multitude of officially licensed cars and tracks, laser scanned with millimeter accuracy. Their car models and mechanical systems are based on real-world physics and engineered in cooperation with manufacturers and race teams. iRacing's web-based interface allows members to compare stats and test drive any combination of car and track instantly. Their skill license system ranges from rookie to pro, ensuring members are always pitted against those with similar skill sets. Members are able to sign up for a weekly race series, compete in time trials, host a private race with friends, and participate in racing leagues created and run by the community. With over 60,000 members, iRacing works in partnership with renowned motorsport organizations like SRO Motorsports Group to deliver virtual races based on the real-life Blancpain GT series. iRacing's Blancpain Endurance Series features team racing, giving members the ability to build a team and participate in races ranging from 3 hours to 24 hours. Additional partners include NASCAR, IMSA, V8 Supercars, IndyCar, allowing members to race in their very own 24 hours of Spa, Bathurst 1000, Daytona 500, and many more. iRacing.com, delivering the most authentic racing experience short of getting into a real race car.
They say it's always darkest before the dawn. And in the world of motorsports, those words ring especially true. As is tradition, Daytona greets us as we emerge from our winter hibernation. But this year, we awaken 30 years in the past. This time we celebrate a bygone era as drivers take to the unrefined beasts that are the Audi Quattro and Nissan GTP. A new season is about to dawn. The darkness about to fade. The Major Series and Late Apex Apparel proudly bring you the 2018 Classic Daytona 2.4, an endurance race from the ages, for the ages. Coming to you live, iRacing Live, on February 4th, 2018.
Welcome back to V8s Online for CPR Rallycross, and we're here for the final already. Once again, like last round, we've really smashed through the night of racing. I guess that's a bit of a benefit of having lower numbers. You can really plough through the heats and into the final very quickly indeed, which I think suits the racing very well. So a nice quick broadcast here tonight, and then we can we'll have a bit of a relax, well, as much as we can in the heat, as I'm sure it is generally wherever you are in the country. But so yeah, been a really fun night of racing so far, and I mean, as we saw in that LCQ there, Cam, there were some big names that didn't make it into the final, but that's just going to show how high quality this final should be.
Yeah, definitely. It just goes to show how much talent and how deep this field is as far as pace. So it's going to be very, very interesting to see who comes out on top in this final with it being as strong as it is.
Yeah, for sure. And as I mentioned before into the break, there's a good half the field, if not more, probably really most of the field, if not the whole field, because they have a chance of winning this one. And so it's going to be pretty hard to pick who could win. Again, as I mentioned, a good rivalry in this too, with 3 SSR cars and 3 ERT cars in this final. So the rivalry will be very strong in that regard, I'm sure. So we'll see who's going to end up on top. And yeah, I don't really know who to pick, as I mentioned, because it's such a stacked field. It's really a tough one to pick a winner. As I mentioned earlier on when we saw in one of our earlier heats, Robert Northway, a bit of a dark horse, showed some really nice pace in his heat to not be that far off the likes of the SSR guys like Cam J. Taylor and Jackerman as well. So probably watch him to be there or thereabouts. Cohen Attard's another sort of privateer who has been doing some really good things in Rallycross. I know he does a lot of it. I've been seeing him when I have jumped on to do some official stuff. He's generally there and has got a really good rating for himself already. So Cohen, one to watch to be there or thereabouts as well. So especially if there's a lot of banging in front of him, a lot of trading panels and paints and some instances especially, I think Cohen will be there to pounce on that as well. But the qualifying lap's just beginning. I think Cohen might actually be the first one to start as well, as it happens. So there you go, very nice indeed. Coming into the left-hander for the first time, and a good solid run for him. And into that chicane, which always very awkward because it does transition pretty much in the middle of turn-in from gravel to asphalt, which is always a bit of a difficult one to master. Into the final part of the circuit now, a lot of a series of hairpins as you get onto the oval. So I try and get it turned to get it straightened up as quick as you can, so you can get on the power as quick as you can and head on to the sweeping oval corner and then into the final hairpin before you tackle the jump again. An awkward transition from asphalt to gravel right before the jump on a corner as well, which always makes it a bit difficult. But over the line goes Cohen at 37.452. Cracking lap from Cohen to start off proceedings here, and that's really set the gauntlet for the rest of the field, Ken.
Yeah, absolutely. That's an absolutely awesome time, and it's going to be interesting to see if anybody can beat that.
Yeah, as Ackland and Bale, just pop-in times right behind him. 37.5s and 6s there, but not enough to beat Cohen. Luke Harvey putting in a 38.1. Again, as I mentioned, a driver we haven't seen, I don't think, in this series before, but showing some really solid pace. Even if he isn't quite as practiced in these cars as others around him are, still doing some really solid pace regardless. And wow, look at that. But Cam J. Taylor, 0.00 or 0.01 between the two of them, so nearly matching each other's times in third and fourth as we wait the other half of the field to put in their laps as well. Robert Northway coming across, I think, to start his first lap, so he'll start that now. Simon Black, I'm assuming, had one of his laps discounted as he's still going along. Oh, Ryan Gortard, though, or Gortson, sorry, 37 flat pretty much on that lap. That is an absolutely stomping lap there, Cam, and that's going to really set the challenge for the rest of the field.
Yeah, it definitely is, and Luca Jackman's just on the start of his first lap, so watch out for what he does, because if his practice time's anything to go by, it's going to be fairly quick.
Yeah, for sure. He was only about a 10th off Ryan in the practice session prior to this qualifying. We'll see what Luca can do as he comes around the back half of the circuit now, heading to the final hairpin, running out wide, obviously try and sort of section off that final corner as best you can to get the power down and fly over the jump. What's his time going to be? Ooh, a 37.2, puts him second, but it's still a couple of tenths down on Ryan Gaunson, who has the pole for now, and the question will be who can beat him, as Luca is going to cancel that one and start again from the pit lane or pit area or start area effectively, as it is in Rallycross. Still waiting on Scott Larnack and Robert Northway to put in their respective first times as well. We've only got about a minute and a half left in the session, so all the drivers cutting it quite fine to get their laps in. So Northway coming over now, I think, to do his first lap, and it's going to be a 39.3, really amped up his pace to get involved there, as Scott Larnack puts himself in P3 with a 37.368 and quite nicely splitting the field. It's all mixed up really. Not one of the teams has an advantage. It's all very split together with an SSR car on the lead, and he's got two ERT cars following him. The independent, or the sort of on his own driver of Cohen Attard in fourth, and then you've got another SSR, ERT, and then TTR following suit there. So a good mix so far, and still times to improve, but just under a minute to go now. And I think a lot of the drivers are finishing off their laps. Looks like Luca Jackerman's now done, so that'll be his best time for the night. And yep, Larnack's got one more roll of the dice as he goes through the double left-hander. We're running a bit wide there. It's going to compromise his time just a little bit. And see whether that's going to maybe sort of minimise the chance of going better and snatching that second from his teammate as he comes through the back half of the circuit now. Pushing limited as far as he can in that Beetle, which, as I mentioned, a lot more drivers these days going the Beetle. Looks like a bit like how it was with the GTE cars as well. The Ferrari is probably a bit easier to set up and drive initially, but once you've got the Ford set up, you can be a real killer in that. It seems to be the same here in Rallycross. The Fiesta a bit easier, hands-on, out of the box, but the Beetle, as always, Larnack does not improve. But yeah, the Beetle a bit more difficult to get the handle of, but once you get a good setup, it seems to be just as quick, if not quicker, than the Fiesta. So really interesting to see that evolution like we saw in GTE, but looks like that is it. So your order is as follows. As we head into the final for tonight, it's going to be Ryan Gorton in the prime position on pole with a 37 flat, with Luca Jackerman in second. Scott Larnack in third, with Cohen Attard in fourth. Really mixing it with some of the big teams here in Rallycross, here in Australia anyway. Daniel Ackland in P5. Cam J. Taylor in P6, probably a bit further down than he would like. We'll see if he can advance further up the field throughout the race. Bo Albert follows him up in seventh. Luke Harvey in 8th, Simon Black in P9, and Robert Northway rounds out your field in P10. So it'll be the first full field we've seen all night. Been pretty clean start so far, although to be fair, it's generally only been about 6 cars in each race, which does help. But with a full 10-car field, this could be really interesting to see one, Cam.
Yeah, definitely. Those 10 cars are all going to be vying for the same piece of real estate, and they're all wanting that same position. So it's going to be interesting to see who comes out of turn 1 and upside down or facing the wrong way, and who comes out of turn 1 in the lead.
Yeah, for sure. It's probably, I wouldn't be surprised if we do maybe see a roller or someone going pretty heavily in defence. As I mentioned, we haven't seen a full field yet tonight, so probably it'll be effectively the first time for all the drivers that they've had a full field of cars around them into T1. So it's going to be a bit of an adventure for all of them. And that always is a recipe for shenanigans when you head into turn 1 with a full field like this first time of the night. But the lights are coming on now. The drivers are raring to go. The final round 5 of CPR Kart and SimParts Rallycross. Who's going to be victorious here for this round of the championship? We're about to find out as it's green flag. And they're away. And Jackerman's got an awful start the front row. Oh, it's 4 wide. Cam Taylor. Yeah, Cam Taylor
gets around the outside though.
Yeah, and he's managed to get through somehow.
He's around.
Again. Oh, big crash over the jump. And Taylor's gone.
And I think there was Robert Northway involved further back.
Oh, and it looks like it was a bit of a clashing of lines again. Unfortunately, Bo Albert's hit the jump on a pretty severe angle. Cam's going the other way. And they've just basically collided lines in the middle of the jump. And unfortunately, Cam has come out the loser. And yeah, that car is massively banged up. And he's out already. So a big moment. One of our big plays in this final. Simon Black was also involved, so he's got damage in that Fiesta as well. But what that now means is the leader, Ryan Gorton, once again takes the lead of this one. Got the clean start, got away cleanly, had a very, very nice run. And he's going to take his 2 jokers, I believe, straight away once again. Get that clean air, as he's done already pretty much all night long. And no one else, by the looks of it, following him through for now. Everyone else, or most of the others have only done the 1 joker. They haven't taken the 2nd joker yet. And oh, there you go. So Ackland just takes his first, and that puts him ahead of Luca Jackerman and right behind Scott Larnack, who've also taken their first joker on lap 1 as well, as did Luke Harvey. Cohen Attard yet to take any jokers, so watch for him later in the race. Same with Bo Albert, who was involved in that incident off the first lap. Simon Black also yet to do a joker with a bit of a beat-up Fiesta, unfortunately, with that incident. The battle for 2nd is heating up with Larnack and Daniel Ackland, who is looking very pacey here tonight. Has generally probably been a little less pacey than his fellow SSR teammates. As I mentioned, a lot of them being brought in for Rallycross specifically, but Ackland really is improving his chops in the Rallycross scene, despite, as I mentioned, being probably more known as a road racer. Really been showing his stuff on the dirt here, Ken.
Yeah, definitely. He's been going quite well, and he's definitely proven that tonight, as he's right there at the front end of the field.
And he's going for his joker once again, so that's his 2nd joker. Where's he going to come out? I think he'll be behind, I'm assuming, Ryan Gorton. He is indeed, but again, not far behind, only a few seconds. Remember, he was behind Scott Larnack on track, so Larnack looking on point to be effectively neck and neck with Gorton at this phase of the race, but we know Ryan's pace is extremely solid in that Beetle, and we'll see if he can try and stretch away from Scott Larnack. But again, we've seen this earlier in the LCQ as well. We saw that just because you're getting that clean air out the front, it doesn't mean that you're guaranteed to have the leads. We saw Larnack do that with his saving that last stroke to the very end and jumping out very nicely right in the mix there at the front. So and we've seen his pace is been very electric all night long. So if he just does what he did last time, there's every chance that he could be fighting for lead with Gorton when he does his jokers. I think someone ahead of him there just taking his joker Northway. Yes, indeed, taking his first joker of the race. And sorry, second joker of the race. There we go. So that's not going to be effective in the end. Larnack will be ahead of him effectively. This could really change things here, Cam, because this may force Scott to take the joker earlier than once, although it helps when Northway goes wide, so that gets rid of that particular obstacle. So scratch that one. But if Northway had managed to keep ahead, that could have really tossed a bit of a curveball for him as well. Northway hits the tyre bundle going through the chicane, which leaves a bit of a obstacle for Bo Albert. Unfortunately, does drill that one there, but looks like he might have got away with it relatively unscathed. But now Bo's going to have a bit of a roadblock, Robert Northway to deal with. And obviously, with the way this all plays out, it can end up forcing you to take that joker a bit sooner than you maybe want if you're stuck behind a car cam.
Yeah, definitely, and it's not the most ideal thing to be in traffic, so got to be really careful not to get held up too much, as I've now seen Luca Jackman take his second joker, and he's right there at the front of the field with the two Sinji Sim racing car.
Yeah, 1.6 seconds thereabouts covering top three, and if anything, actually, Daniel Ackland, like one of the quickest of the three of them, he's actually going quicker than his teammate Gorton, who keeping nice and consistent, but not quite got the pace of his teammates. So it's going to be really interesting to see what this ends up being. It's all right ahead of them. I think Black and Attard coming together, and they're actually dropping well into the hands of the leaders. Looks like Black's not going to take the joker. Cohen is. I think he probably saw them on the relative and thought he'd better take that joker to make sure he doesn't get caught by the leaders and have to let them through. And so, unfortunately for Black, he's just ahead of them now, so he may have to let them through, which is going to really ruin his run these last couple of laps. So we're nearly about to get 2 to go already, so this race has absolutely flown by. Oh, sorry, 15 lap race. Sorry, it is extended. So we have about halfway through this race, but it is halfway gone already. So this race has really flown by in an instant. That's how exciting it has been so far. So 2 jokers once again, so 5 extra laps, but still just the 2 jokers to be run by the field as they go into the double left-hander once again. There's Simon Black just ahead of them. Hopefully he can maybe take their joker to stay out of the way, or he doesn't. So Black's going to have to get out of the way here, and this could really play a crucial role in things as well. They're going to have to try and negotiate him, and all Black's, he's trying to run his race, but this is being really crucial in the battle for the lead. Gorton, though, handles it very well. Black gets out of the way now as best he can. Well done there from Simon. But look at Luke Jackman having a look at Daniel Ackland for second spot. What this is doing is really allowing Ryan to start to waltz away a little bit in the lead.
Yeah, definitely. These two fighting is not helping Jackman or Ackland at the moment. So, Jackman had a look there, but not.
Contact!
The bundle. Jackman's going to go through. So Jackman now in second, and Gorton will now keep the lead.
Well, and Ackland, rejoined. And, there's more contact. Larnack's went out. Oh, no, the massive incident again as Ackland, he had to flick spin it nearly. Was right in the path of Larnack. I think he had to straighten anyway, and then...
Just about...
no, and it's still going. Yeah, it's Cohen Attard's involved as well. But yeah, and then looks like Ackland, he's come back across a bit, and unfortunately tagged Larnack and sent him across. No, more! And they're still going into the hairpin, and Larnack is being really bullied around at the moment. He's trying to clear Attard, but Attard gets a bad run. Here comes Bo Albert involved as well. So, and there's more hip and shouldering. It's a really physical race at the moment. Attard goes wide. That's going to let both the RT cars through, but this has really compromised Scott Larnack's race. He was looking on to be in the top 3, but now he might not even go that far after a really, really difficult lap for him.
Yeah, it's been really, really rough there for those past few laps for him, unfortunately. So he's going to have his work cut out to try and get it, but we've now got a battle for the lead between Ryan Gorton and Luca Jackman. Jackman right there. He's only got a handful of laps to go to try and make the move stick, but he's got some decent pace, so I can see it happening very, very soon.
Yeah, we've seen in clean air Luca Jackman's able to match the pace, if not beat it, of the likes of Ryan Gorton. So, and he's got the eyes on, he really does. You can see he knows this is the effective lead. And if he can get this move done, he'll be crowned the winner tonight and get a lovely boost of points. He nearly sticks the nose up there. I think the move was really on. It was probably best if he just kind of tucked in behind rather than going for that. That has wrecked his momentum a bit and given Ryan a little bit of breathing space, at least for now, as we have 3 laps to go in this race. Bo Albert, by the way, he's just about there. So if these two really start taking chunks over each other, Bo Albert is right there to pounce as well. And then behind them, Daniel Ackland in P4, still looking on point for some good points to Simon Black. Spins through the chicane, having a really rough time of things for him. Scott Larnack now in P5, trying to, if anything, did some damage control and just try and get as many points as he can out of tonight. But the battle for the lead continues on. It looks like Gaunton has just got the measure of Luca Jackaman for now at least. But 2 laps to go. Anything, as we know, can happen in these races. And of course, got to keep in mind, Robert Northway is not that far ahead of them either. So if Northway has some issues, he could become a factor in this battle for the lead pretty soon.
Yeah, definitely. Jackaman's very, very even on pace with Gorton at the moment, so it's going to be very, very tough for Jackaman to try and make a move stick at this point, as they're going to have 1 lap to go this time by.
Yeah, definitely. As here they come for the penultimate time into the final hairpin. Ryan Gaunton. Gaunton is in the lead, but you can see Luca Jackaman ranging up behind him. The gap's closed once again, and it's on for Young and All now. Last lap of this race, and for the final race for tonight, who's going to come out on top? Will it be Ryan Gaunton? Will it be Luca Jackaman? Will it even be Bo Albert? Will the two of them come together? Oh, is he nearly? Yeah, has a look up at the inside of the hairpin. Trying to try and line him up here, is he? No, again. Oh, no, he's not close enough. Oh, and he's locked up. Yeah, he's locked up for rears. Yeah, I think the momentum went the wrong way, and that's given the win to Ryan Gaunton. So he tried all he could, Luca Jackaman, but just not able to make the move stick. And that is going to give the win to Ryan Gaunton. Great driving tonight from Ryan. Really clean and precise stuff. He takes the win for round 5 of CPR Sim and Karts from Rallycross. So great win for Ryan and SSR. Really pretty dominant races a lot of the way through tonight. Just got the lead early, kept his nose clean, and comes out victorious from tonight's racing. Luca Jackaman, though, he gave it his all, but I wasn't quite able to take the win, but still gets a very solid 2nd place and a good bag full of points. Very big shout out to Bo Albert as well. Started P7, but gets a podium from tonight. I think he'll be quite happy with that result, considering things for him. Daniel Ackland does end up P4 despite his incident with Scott Larnack earlier on in the race. Luke Harvey, a bit anonymous throughout this race, just kind of hanging a bit further back, but does end up getting a P5 out of it. So a good, strong result for him, considering, as I mentioned, he's probably not one that you would see too much in the Rallycross scene, but a good run for him regardless. Scott Larnack, probably a case of what could have been for him. He had the pace to definitely be fighting for the lead at least, but unfortunately a case of wrong place, wrong time sees him in P6 from the final. Cohen Attard, a difficult race for him as well, as he kind of got in some tussling with Scott Larnack, which cost him time, ends up in P7. And then you have Robert Northway in P8, and Simon Black, I think, did end up bringing it home a lap down to get a finish in P9. Of course, Ham Taylor involved in that heavy collision at the start, which saw him out in the first lap, ends up retired from this one. But very fascinating race. Finish off the night of racing. A great battle at the front that was going on all race, and obviously we saw Larnack getting involved in some pretty heated moments as well. So bit of a controversial race there, Cam, but it's what we guess it's what you come to see a lot of the time with Rallycross. It all does tend to kick off in the final race of the night.
It was an absolutely awesome race there, so can't wait for next week, which is going to be even more of a cracker at Lucas Oil.
Yeah, and Lucas Oil, obviously. So, is a bit of a unique track, a very tight track in the dirt section, especially compared to all of the other tracks on offer here in iRacing. Obviously, you got the basically 90-degree left and right handers in the middle of the circuit, which are really difficult to manage even on your own, let alone when you've got other cars around. So that could be a bit of a recipe for some incidents. And of course, the Joker as well, coming out into the apex of a corner as a recipe for some shenanigans as well. So could be a really fascinating night of racing, and should be a really cracking night. And if you're around Thursday, definitely have another crack of it, have another watch, and hopefully you guys can enjoy the show again. Hope you enjoyed the show tonight. We had an absolute blast bringing it to you once again, as we always do here on V8s Online. I guess if Jay's willing, we could pop up maybe the what sign one last time before we sign off, so you know what's coming up next. We have the return of OEC on Sunday at the Nürburgring, the WEC layout, with the proper chicane, as I like to call it. That's going to be on the Sunday on 09:45 Sydney time, 22:45 GMT. Be sure to be around for that one. I'll probably end up be racing that potentially at this point, so it should be good fun. Obviously HPDs and GTEs with some multi-class and all that sort of thing should be a fun time, so be sure to join us for that. Monday, 29th, we have the return again of the official V8 Supercar Series from Spa. That's obviously, as the V8s always do, they always turn on the racing whenever they are on the show. So be sure to have a watch of that one. OSC, the return of that season 2 with the first round of Daytona on the Wednesday the 31st. And that's one that, as I mentioned before, me and Cam will be doing the Audis. So we'll not be the strongest track for it, the Daytona, but we'll have our fun anyway. Might end up having a bit of a tussle between the two of us at the back of the field to keep ourselves entertained while the Mercs and everybody else run away with it. But anyway, how it goes. And then next week, of course, the 1st of February, first day of February, we're back for more CPR Kart and SimPass Rallycross from Lucas Oil Raceway. Should be a cracking one to come along for. And then we have the major series, of course, Classic Daytona 2.4 from 1800 Sydney time on the Sunday. That should be a cracking race to watch. Me and myself and Jay, I know, will be racing in one of the other time zones. Should be a really fascinating race if you can just survive it, let alone whether you have battles and all that to go with it, which is an added bonus. That should be a great one to start off that series, which is going to be a really, really interesting series to obviously go all year long, racing all sorts of different cars. So be sure to follow that one with interest, because it will throw up all sorts of racing with the format that major series has. And again, on Monday the 5th, we're back again for more official V8 supercars. Then we have the Down Under Graphics Sports Car Sprint Car Summer Series, the start of that. That's a new series on Tuesday nights. Be sure to have a watch of that one if you like your sprint cars. Look no further. And that one starting on the 6th next month. And then on Thursday the 8th, we're back once more for the next round. Round 7 will be at that point of CPR Kart and SimPass Rallycross. Unfortunately, I don't know if I'll be around for that because of having another series starting up on Thursday nights for me. But I'm sure we'll bring you all the excitement as per usual. It'll be a great show to watch, as it always is here with Rallycross. Always turns it on every night. But final thoughts, Cam, before we sign off for the night.
A very good night of racing, and can't wait for next week, as it's going to be hopefully another good night of racing.
Yeah, for sure. And as I mentioned, Lucas Oil being a really tight and quite technical circuit, really, especially in the dirt section of the track. It's the recipe for it. It can throw up some pretty interesting scenarios. And obviously the transition onto the gravel as well is a pretty tight hairpin, which does invite, a bit like it does there at Iowa, that last hairpin can invite some pretty big dive bombs. So be wary of that watching next week. But I'm sure it'll be a cracking show, and we'll look forward to bringing it to you. So yeah, it's going to be an awesome time. But again, thanks for coming along. Hope you guys enjoyed this show wherever you watched, on YouTube, Facebook, on the many platforms we stream on. Hopefully you enjoyed the show. From myself, Thomas Hins, Cam, Dance, and of course Jay Candy is always doing the awesome work behind the scenes. Can never thank him enough for running the show for us so professionally. We hope you enjoyed it, and we will see you very, very soon here on VS Online. It's bye for now.